Hello, I'm Bill Hanna, Mesabi Daily News Executive Editor. This is going to be our second of a series of regular interviews we're going to have with political leaders and elected officials in the area. And today, Representative David Dill from, make sure I got it right, House 3A. David is from Crane Lake, was first elected in 2002. David, good to have you here.
Well, good to be here, Bill, and you've been very helpful when we've had initiatives in the legislature that we need to have explained to the public, and I appreciate that.
David, I know you got a key appointment with the DFL taking over the majority in both the House and Senate, and you have worked yourself up to a key committee chairmanship that is vital to northeastern Minnesota and definitely vital to the Iron Range. You want to talk a little bit about that?
That's right, Bill. I'm now the chair of the Environment Policy Committee for the House of Representatives, or will be when we're seated on January 8th. And it is going to be important for range initiatives that we have before us, both existing and new initiatives, as well as all of rural Minnesota, whether it be in the Northwest or the Ag Belt, Southeast, all of the state of Minnesota. But we certainly have our challenges that are going to be coming before us, and I think that you know what some of those are, and maybe you want to ask specifically some questions on those things.
Well, let's cut right to it. As far as within the party, the DFL party, you'll be dealing with, and you have been, but now as chairman of that committee, you'll be dealing with some DFL legislators, some colleagues from the Twin Cities area that are not exactly friendly to the area, to the range, when it comes to mining generally, and more specifically copper, nickel, precious metals mining. Concerns?
I had the opportunity to be the chair of Game, Fish, and Forestry when Margaret Kelleher was the Speaker of the House. That was a subcommittee of environment. And I kind of learned how to maneuver when it came to problems for the Iron Range through that, kind of a junior apprenticeship, so to speak. We have a lot of challenges, and we have a lot of opposition from within our own party towards particularly copper-nickel mining, but also the issues of wetlands and the mitigation of wetlands that are needed as mines continue to exercise a mine plan across the iron ore formation and in the areas of copper-nickel. And those are all hot buttons for a lot of the legislators that are in the DFL. I can tell you that as the chair of that organization, or chair of that committee, that I am going to be defending rural initiatives, regardless of that part of the state. But because in my home area, they will be logging, mining of ferrous and non-ferrous minerals, I do not intend to have hearings on bills that are a detriment to our economy or economic expansion. Now, that being said, specifically to copper-nickel mining, I think it is ludicrous that we would pass a bill or even entertain a bill that would ban copper-nickel mining like they did in Wisconsin, or like former Representative Moe is reporting through his organization down at the Capitol. The reason being is Minnesota is one of the best environmentally controlled states in the United States of America, and for that matter, the country. And if we can't do it right in Minnesota with the newest technologies that are available to us, such as the polymet technology using the reverse osmosis to take the phosphates out of the water, then we shouldn't do the project, because we don't want to pollute the water for future generations. But I don't think that we should say, no, you can't do it before we can even start. That's just totally wrong. Beyond that, maybe we should look at some ideas of, in the interim, while we're trying to get a full permit or a full permit for a project, maybe doing a draft project like we did with the Mesabi Nugget over on the North Shore, where we start out at a pilot level. Frankly, I think that's what Polymet is doing right now when they're running water through their RO, reverse osmosis system. But I will also be prepared that if I work to have a bill be re-referred to my committee, that I will fight it out on the House floor to get that done if I believe that it's a threat to the economy and to the future economic growth of the Iron Range in northeastern Minnesota.
laughed.
It's okay. I love the ground beef story. I love the ground beef story because I thought until you clarified that for me that that's where ground beef came from, the grocery store. Now I know it's from farms, so I appreciate that, David. Getting back to mining and getting back to the Iron Range. Just last week, Governor Dayton and two other members of the Executive Council, Mark Ritchie, who is Secretary of State, and Rebecca Otto, who is the State Auditor, voted to delay, I believe it was 61 mine leases for exploration in non-ferrous parcels of land that would be for non-ferrous copper nickel mining. Your thoughts on that? I've heard a lot of people pretty upset with it up here.
Well, there certainly is a reason to be upset about it. Our world, we won World War II with minerals from the ground on the Iron Range. We're going to win in generations to come with jobs and economic development by finding minerals and doing it properly, doing it environmentally friendly, and doing it economically, so that we power our economy in the future. And it seems almost senseless that state law is in place that governs how these leases are handled, but yet we don't have the fortitude to move forward with that, even in the face of a small amount of opposition. Minerals, one of the things that disappoints me more than the Executive Council's decision, which is the second time that this has happened, not the first time, is the fact that Polymet and Twin Metals, as an example, has said that they have numerous decades, some of them out in the 50 to 70 years worth of already quantified metals to mine. But yet we're spending time on getting more leases out when I believe the DNR should spend more time on getting a draft EIS prepared for Polymet so we can get this project moving. So I'm both disappointed in the decision that was made by the Executive Council, but I'm also disappointed with our administration that we're not moving this more quickly forward. Now, if there's a specific reason why it isn't moving quickly forward, if it's because that we are preparing an EIS that's so good that it won't be defeated in a court of law, I'm willing to listen to that. But this constant, and a Keewatin taconite, although it be ferrous metal, is a perfect example of nothing but delays, ridiculous delays. It's caused hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of infrastructure investment that creates new jobs, and also millions, tens of millions of dollars worth of expenditures for environmental permitting by the company. It's just getting unbearable and ridiculous. And as committee chair, you can bet your last dollar I'm going to be getting to the bottom of that, and I'm going to defend the range, as I said before, against any onslaught of bills that would be detrimental to us.
David, let me switch a little bit off of mining, even though we spent a good portion on that for good reason. You were Fish and Game, if I remember right, and you can give me the exact name of the committee, subcommittee that you were chairing. What are your thoughts regarding the DNR on the moose population? They came out that said that it might be a good idea to kind of give it almost an endangered species tag. The population has dropped. Your thoughts on that from a legislative point of view? Do you think it should be an endangered species?
There are three levels of protection under the Endangered Species Act, as I understand it. One is a species of concern, and the DNR has proposed to put them on that. That's the lowest. Then there's the threatened and then endangered. I don't think it's any mystery to the folks in northeastern Minnesota, particularly the moose population has suffered. And for those in the northwest, they've basically seen their herd disappear. I'm thinking legislatively, we got to take maybe a look at this legislative where we've got the guts to make some changes. Sometimes the DNR gets caught up in the fact that they're kind of a political in a political situation where they're hesitant to make changes because they get their head handed to them on a platter. And on the other hand, is we shouldn't probably micromanage them at all times either. But it's very likely that we're going to have a discussion in my committee, in the Environment Committee, which will handle this, about curtailing the season, temporarily suspending the season, or having a good reason not to do that. Now, in full disclosure, I want to make sure that the folks that see me say this know that I own a hunting camp in northern Ontario where we sell moose hunts. But our herd is not in danger, and I certainly would never take any action on anything that we did in Minnesota based on that. I just want to make in full disclosure of that. I had these feelings when I first got elected, and I saw just up on the Echo Trail and up in the Lac LaCroix area the moose population starting to fall a bit. And I don't know what the reason is, but I think that we'll definitely be having hearings on that, as we will be having on chronic wasting disease. Possibly that's part of this. Other important things like aquatic invasive species and things of that nature that not everyone up here has their radar on, but things that are coming, at least a lot of that from the south, like big-headed carp coming up the Mississippi. It's going to be a big impact on us. So the moose, I'm really worried about it because I know what it means to me economically in northern Canada, the moose population. It's important to me. And economically and socially it's important, probably even reverse order socially and economically here in the Northeast.
David, one last question. In general, about economic development, we always hear the mantra being sounded at election time, jobs, jobs, jobs. And then we seem to have this tug of war between private and public, government and private development as far as jobs. Just how are jobs created? Really, what is the role of both government and of the public regarding economic development?
Bill, it is not the role of government to create jobs. And I hope I never fall into the position that I say that I created as a legislator jobs or that the government created jobs. The job creation is solely the domain of people who are entrepreneurs. Some of great wealth, some of very little wealth. They are people that live in your community, that live down your street, that you see in your garage welding or making or studying or cutting or fitting, or you see someone sitting behind a computer thinking. Those are people that make jobs. In medical technology, it's the role of government to not, number one, put obstacles before them, and number two, to streamline things so that they can accomplish the goal, so that we do have jobs, jobs, jobs. That is how I see the role of government. Now, from time to time, regimes at the Capitol come in there and say that even that is too much. And other regimes say that that's not enough. The government isn't taking the correct role. I have been an entrepreneur all my life. I know what I need from government. Just let me do my work and let me ask government what I need. I don't need government putting obstacles before me. And such as a rule that, or a law that would say that you can't do non-ferrous mining in Minnesota. The other thing I'd like to say is that many times as legislators we get trapped up in the idea of going outside of our own populace to look for economic opportunity. And that's good because there's been people who have done great work in that area where they brought Blue Cross Blue Shield to Virginia, I mean Delta Dental to Eveleth, and you know the list goes on. But we need to look and focus on people in our own community to have skills and talents, and then help them match them with resources and legislation and rules that allow them to flourish. Because what is the saying? You can take the girl out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the girl. When you build a foundation of economic development on people that live in your communities, I'm not going to give you an example. Larry Lettinen. Now there's an entrepreneur from Palo, and look what he and his family are accomplishing here. And there are others. Many of them are suppliers to the mines. Many of them are inventors, people like that. Those are the folks that we need to be helping locally first, and then as a part of that also look outside to other countries, other states, and even within the state to some degree. That's how I envision economic development for our communities and for the Northeast.
Well, Representative Dill, I really appreciate you coming by, and hope to be spending some more time with you this way when you're back on weekends or during recess of the session. We'll have a legislative correspondent down there again, and she'll be in touch with you quite a bit so that you will be in touch with the constituents back here through the Mesabi Daily News. And viewers, thanks a lot for checking this out. I thought it was a very good interview, and Representative Dill was very clear in where he stands on a lot of key issues to the region, and look for several more of these type of interviews coming up in the next few weeks.